We will just start off with a prayer. Ramana. We will start off with a prayer until Dileep sir comes. He will be joining us in some time. So, prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. We begin today's Tuesday Satsang Self-Enquiry session with the prayer. After the prayer, we will have Shri Dileep Simha, who will be sharing with us about self-enquiry, thoughts about self-enquiry. After which we will have a 20-minute session of practice of self-enquiry. Following which Dr. Sarada will be talking to us about thoughts about self-enquiry from the text Ramana Gita. Akka has been covering the shlokas of Ramana Gita. Today also she will be sharing the thoughts on Ramana Gita. We begin today's satsang with a prayer. Dakshinamurtisarambham Shankaracharyamadhyamam Ramanacharyaparyantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Angikam Bhuvanam Yasya Pachikam Sarva Vangmayam Aharyam Chandrataradi Tam Namah Satvikam Shivam Ekamaksharam Hridi Nirantaram Bhasate Swayam Likhyate Katham Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram Hyahamahami Sakshat Atmarupena Bhati Hridi Vishamanasa Swam Chinvata Majjatava Pavana Chalana Rodha Atmanishto Bhavatvam Deham Mrunmaya Vajjadatmakam Aham Buddhirna Tasyastyato Naham Tattadabhavashukti Samaye Siddhatma Sadbhavataha कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो वरधिया दृष्ट्वात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं. Namo Ramana. Over to Dileep sir.
Namo Ramana. Thank you, Revatima. Sorry for the delay. We have been in the Tuesday Atmavichara session from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, Bengaluru. We have been reading Bhagavan's reminiscences as it has been written by Mahakrishna Swami in the book Years in the Presence of Ramana, My Master. In his reminiscences, he is explaining about his experience at ashram, especially connected to the daily life at the ashram. And last time, he had made a note in which he said, Sri Ramana always said that he who works needs work much more than he who benefits from its fruits. So in this, the work that we do, the karma that has been ordained for us, is more important for us, Bhagavan says, than those who benefit from it. So he thought that the virtues of work must be acquired by all, and he was the first to set an example. Continuing on that, we learned much from him by the manner in which he behaved, by the subtlety and affection in the performance of daily tasks. When there were no visitors at the ashram, and when he was not working on a book, Sri Ramana whittled on a new staff which he used during his strolls, washed his clothes, fixed the bucket used to draw water from the well, prepared leaves to be used as plates, bound books, or accomplished other useful activities. He did all with perfection and love, no matter how trivial the task appeared. Looking at how these things have been captured, often when we embark on this spiritual path, and largely it will be an intellectual understanding approach of ours. Therefore, we try to understand what the self is, and when we understand abiding in the self or knowing the self, all these things when we hear, we generally take ourselves to be this individual who has to practice this abiding in the self or knowing the self and all of that. And we try to understand the spiritual path like any other activity which is done with the body-mind thing. But here we are seeing Bhagavan was so identified with the self, and therefore it really didn't matter what the body was involved in, because the self is ever silent, ever shining without a break. So we can see how Bhagavan, when he had no visitors, if we were to take our sadhana, compare that to be equaling to Bhagavan's purpose of only giving darshan to the people, visitors of the ashram, for us, doing sadhana is equally important. If we were to compare them to be equal, we see that when that was not being done, Bhagavan would continue to do many other roles. So here also we can understand that the whole purpose of the spiritual sadhana for us is to really know who I am, not to get any intellectual understanding. It is to clearly identify with what we really are. We now have absolutely no doubt that we are a human being, or we are a male, or we have a name called Dileep, or something like that. Right? In a similar fashion, our identification with who we really are needs to happen. And when that happens, it becomes really, really clear for us that the body and the mind and the intellect and all the things will keep on doing. It's all part of the nature. And it is already part of a journey that it is embarked on. Therefore, and the self also is always silent and in mauna at all times. So having identified ourselves with that, there will be no doubt about whether I should do this activity or should not do this activity. So here Bhagavan, by recording this, Mahakrishna Swami is very clearly communicating how Bhagavan would not be bothered about what his daily work would be, whether it is giving darshan to visitors or working on a book, or it is some staff or making going for his strolls or washing the clothes or fixing a bucket for to draw the water or preparing the leaves for the plates, bounding the book. It could be anything that the body and the mind could be involved with. Further, he goes on to say, and in this regard, I remember Revati saying, when they went to Nachu Swami recently, he said, if you had come a few minutes back, you would have seen me also playing cricket with all the people here. So it's as natural as that can be, the self-realization. There need not be any high fuss about it, is what Bhagavan is saying. Anything that the body is ordained and the mind is ordained, the intellect ordained, it can continue to behave in it. But one should identify oneself with who one is. Therefore, the who am I question is a very important question to make us recognize who we are and identify ourselves with that. Further, Bhagavan is going on saying, Mahakrishna Swami is going on to say that he did all with perfection and love, no matter how trivial the task appeared. Sri Ramana took the same care and perfection in preparing a great ritual, and he did in making a package or arranging an object on a shelf. Not even his first drafts were careless. He executed everything with great zeal despite its destiny, for himself, for visitors, for disciples, or for animals. Anything that we create with the body-mind complex, everything has an origin, everything has a destiny, and there is always something that it is already predestined for, as Bhagavan told to Mother Alagamma. So here we can see that though he would do the work with great zeal, he would be least bothered about what the destiny of that work would be towards him or towards others or towards the animals. Further, he goes on to capture. The instruction was that nothing should be wasted. Nothing could be useful in some Nothing that could be useful in some form should be thrown away. In India, it is the custom to scorn the remains of food because it is believed that a day after its preparation, the food becomes impure. In the ashram, however, the discipline was that no food that could be consumed should be rejected. All is provided by the divine and therefore should be used with respect. This was also true for food. Not a grain of rice remained in his plate when Bhagavan finished eating. The vegetable peels were not thrown away, but reserved for the cattle. Bhagavan Sri Ramana used to prepare various types of chutney, normally prepared with coconut, aromatic herbs, and diverse spices. He always used the most common types of seeds and herbs and was specialist in preparing delicious dishes with the most simple of ingredients. When some different food was ready, he offered a little to all who were present in the kitchen to try, and all received it as prasadam, food blessed by the master. Here, Bhagavan, in this, we can see that as Bhagavan had told, I think Palaniswami, or I don't remember who it was, treat the entire universe as a speck of dust and a speck of dust as the entire universe. So we can see that everything is seen as divine manifestation and everything is respected as the divine itself. And at the same time, everything was shared. Whatever would come to him would be shared to everybody. And he was very involved in anything that he would prepare, like the chutneys that were with many aromatic herbs and normal, commonly available things. He would make such delicious dishes, says Mahakrishna Swami. So we can, by reading all of this, we can understand how natural it is whether for a gnani or for us. Ishvara is running the whole thing for both. It is just that with the idea that I am the body, mind, and the intellect, I take upon all of that as my doings or my not doings. Whereas the person who is steadily abiding in the self, in his real nature, knows that he is neither a doer, neither a knower. He is the same pure being consciousness, unaltered at any point in time. So that is why Bhagavan has given us the Atma Vichar. He has asked us to inquire steadily. Every time when a thought rises and when the I thinks that it is having the thought and wants to either deal with it or not deal with it, make its choices, Bhagavan asks us to intervene and inquire to whom is this thought. And by doing so, we get to know that we have taken upon a new identity called I, which is identified with this name and form. And therefore we feel that, this thought is happening within me, so it is for me. Then Bhagavan beautifully puts the inquiry further by asking, who am I? This question of who am I, because the I itself is being questioned, it needs to go back to its source. And in doing so, it merges in the mauna, the silence of the self. Though initially, we may not get very familiar with it. As we practice more and more the Atma Vichara, it becomes more and more clear for us that the silence alone is. All other things come, stay, and go away. But this silence of the self, the very presence, is unaltered by anything by whatever is happening in the waking dream or on the sleep. And by more and more practicing or getting back to the our own nature and identifying ourselves with that, we become more and more natural. We understand that this whole thing is very, very naturally played out, and there is just rejoice that we need to rejoice with that natural thing that is happening. So, with Bhagwan's immense grace, for the next 20 minutes, no matter how many thoughts come, no matter what is the nature of those thoughts, let us, if we at all we get carried away by them, let us diligently inquire to whom is this, who am I, until we firmly abide in the mind abides in that truth which we verily are here and now. Bhagwan's immense grace, let us practice Atma Vichara for the next 20 minutes. Om Namo Bhagavate Ramanaya. Over to Sarada.
Namo Ramana, prostrations to the self, prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we in this part of the satsang are meditating on the 15th chapter of Ramana Gita, which has 18 chapters, and all these chapters have a specific subject on which some of the disciples of Muni and the Muni himself have questioned Bhagavan Ramana and found answers to their questions. So, this is one of the chapters where the Muni himself is the questioner. This is the 15th chapter. The Muni is a questioner himself in 7 of the 18 chapters. The very first one, which is the importance of self-abidance, and then on the nature of jnana, then on cutting the knot, granthi beda kathanam, then on the compatibility of jnana and siddhis, which was the 11th chapter. In that chapter, practically, we have one question by the Muni, and after that we have only praise of Bhagavan. Again, that will be the case in the 18th chapter also. There is only, in 18th chapter, Muni is not the question. It is somebody else. So only about 6 chapters, Muni is the questioner. Now in this chapter, he is a questioner, which is Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam. What is Shravana? What is Manana? And what is Nididhyasana? This was a question posed by Ganapati Muni to Bhagavan. Shravanam nama kim natha, mananam nama kim matam, kim va munikula shrestha, nididhyasana muchyate. That is the question. Ityevam Bhagavan Prishto Maya by me Brahmavidambaraha Dvavimshe Divase Pratar Abravit Shishya Samsadi. So this was addressed, the question was addressed to him on the 22nd of August. Veda Shirshastha Bhakyanam, the rest of the chapter, these are the first 2 are the question and the date, the historical setting of the question. And Bhagavan begins to answer. And he had told us, Veda Shishastha Vakyanam Artha Vyakhyana Purvakam Acharyat Shravanam Kechit Shravanam Parichakshate. That some people say, listening to the Vedanta Vakya, Veda Shisha means Vedanta Vakya, and along with Artha and Vyakhyana, or listening to all this, how? Acharya Shravanam Kech. Listening to the Vedanta along with commentary, meaning everything from the Acharya, is Shravana. Apare Shravanam Prahur Acharyat Viditatmanah Giram Bhasha Mayinam Cha Swarupam Bodhayantiya. So here it is said, Bodhayanti, Swarupam Bodhayanti, one who is aware of the self, listening to the words of such a person is Shravanam. Shrutva Vedanta Bhakyani Nija Bhakyani Vaguro Janmantariya Punyena Nyatva Vobhayamantara. So, there are two verses here which Bhagavan gives his own interpretation. Aham pratyaya moolam tvam sharirader vilakshanaha itidam shravanam chittat shravanam vastuto bhavet. Bhagavan does not deny the scriptural sayings or the sayings of people who say that if you listen to the great ones, that is Shravana. But Bhagavan adds a point. He says, if you have listened to the Guru Vakya, maybe you have listened to the Guru Vakya, Shrutva Vedanta Vakyani. You may have heard all the Vedanta Vakyas or Nija Vakyani Va Guroho. Or you may have listened to the truth from your Guru, because the Guru has experienced the truth. Now, this means, in our case, it means that we may have studied Vedanta, we may have studied the scripture, or we may listen to the words of Bhagavan. Now, what are we doing in this satsang? We are listening to the words of Bhagavan. We are doing Nijavakyani Vaguroho. Whatever the knower of the self, which is Bhagavan Ramana, whatever is his anubhava, his words are sharing that anubhava with us. And what are we doing? We are listening to those words. Whenever we hear the meaning of Upadesha Saram, the meaning of Saddarshanam, the meaning of Ramana Gita, the meaning of Guru Vachaka Kovai, these are all the teachings of Bhagavan, or who am I? Self-enquiry. Wherever the teachings of Bhagavan, Bhagavan's words have been recorded and we have listened to them, that is Shravana. That is what is traditionally described as Shravana. Bhagavan says, what is Shravana? Having listened to these words or having known about Vedanta Vakya or Janmantariya Punyena Yatva Obhayamantara. Supposing you have not even listened to the Guru Vakya, or you have not listened to Vedanta. So Bhagavan says, Bhagavan is unconventional. He doesn't say you have to compulsorily listen to Vedanta. You have to compulsorily listen to the Guru. Only then you can get self-knowledge. No, Bhagavan says self-knowledge is natural. But maybe there is some cause. Janmantariya Punyena. Maybe you have done some Purva Janma Punya. You have done your sadhana already. And in this Janma, you neither listened to Vedanta Vakya, nor went to Guru, nor anything. But what happened? Aham pratyaya moolam tvam sharirader vichakshanaha vilakshanaha. Aham pratyaya moolam tvam sharirader vilakshanaha itidam shravanam chittat shravanam vastuto bhavet. That which is the source of the aham pratyaya. What is the aham pratyaya? It is the I feeling or the I thought. What is the source of this I feeling? Aham pratyaya moolam sharirade. Within the limits of the body, this I thought has a source. Okay, that source, Shravanam Chittat, with the mind to listen to that source. In this case, it means to listen to the aham spurana, aham or nanu, I. It may be in any language, it doesn't matter. The language to which we are used, that spurana may come as a sound in that language, or it may come just as a light. It depends. The spurana is varied depending on the mode of the sadhana, is what Nandakumarji has shared with us. If one goes through the path of self-enquiry, one would experience, may experience the Spurana as a light. Bhagavan says it is both light and sound. If one goes through mantra japa, one may, and the source of the mantra japa, one may experience it as sound. But listening to this sound, says Bhagavan, is the real Shravanam. Shravanam vastuto bhave. This is really Shravana. Listening to the Aham Spurana, constantly hearing the Spurana of the heart, which is the source of the I thought. This is real Shravana. So Bhagavan says, it may be, you may get to listen to this, you may get to the source, you may experience the Aham Spurana, you may experience it because you have heard the Guru's words. You may experience it because you have meditated on Vedanta. But the real Shravana is to listen to the heart. So what is the point? The point here is merely listening to Guru's words is not, according to Bhagavan, tantamount to Shravana. It should lead to the experience which the Guru is speaking about. It should lead to the experience of the self. Having listened to the Vedanta must lead to the experience of the self. In Bhagavan's teachings, Anubhava is paramount. Getting the Anubhava of the self is paramount. One may do A or B or C and wonderful things, but one must understand that all this is being done for what purpose, towards what end? To experience the self. To experience the self. So, Bhagavan says that alone is true Shravana. Let us not be content with merely listening to the words or understanding their purport. Let us recognize that the purpose of these words is to establish us in the self. Vadanti mananam kechit शास्त्रार्थस्य विचारणम् वस्तुतो मननं तात स्वरूपस्य विचारणम्. Bhagavan says, some people say meditating on the Shastra, which Shastra is of course the traditional scripture and the Ramana Shastra, which I had listed out earlier. All these texts which we are meditating on are all Shastra. Okay. That is, but actually, vastuto mananam tata swarupasya vicharanam. Inquiring into one's own true nature, self-enquiry is the true mananam, says Bhagavan. Viparyasena rahitam samshayena chamanada Kaishchit brahmatma vijnanam nididhyasanam viparyasena rahitam samshayena chamanada Kaishchit brahmatma vijnanam nididhyasanam So here it says viparyasena rahitam. Viparyasena means without any misunderstanding, and samshayena cha, having no doubt. That is to say, what is to be known without misunderstanding or doubt? Brahmatma vijnanam. To know that I am Brahma without any misunderstanding, to know that I am not the body, to know that I am Brahma without any doubt. Now, none of us in this path may have a doubt. So that is said to be nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is to have a clear understanding of the fact that I am not the body, but I am the self. Now, all of us may have that understanding, that clear understanding. Because we do not believe that we are the body. We are quite clear that we are the self. And we don't have any doubts about that. If supposing somebody tells, you may go to an ex and say, hey, you are not the body. They will say, how do you say I am not the body? Whereas if somebody comes and tells us, you are not the body, we say, yes, I am not the body. So we don't have any doubt about the fact that we are not the body, but we are the self. And we do not have any confusion about it. Could it be that it is a little part body, part mind, part... We don't have any confusion about it either. We are very clear about the nature of the self. But some people say this alone is nididhyasana. What is Bhagavan saying? Viparyasena rahitam samshayena cha yadyapi shastriyamaikya vijnanam kevalam nanubhutaye. Even if there is no misunderstanding, even if there is no doubt, viparyasena rahitam samshayena cha yadyapi, even then, Shastriyam Aikya Vijnanam Kevalam Na Anubhutaye. It does not give experience, says Bhagavan. Just because we are very clear about what is the nature of the truth doesn't mean we have the experience. Samshayascha viparyaso nivaryete ubhavapi. Samshayascha viparyaso nivaryete ubhavapi anubhutyaiva vasishta na shastra shatakairapi. And he says, though it appears that the doubts are not there and misunderstanding are not there, it is actually possible to get rid of doubts and misunderstandings only by anubhava, only by experience. Na shastra shatakairapi. Even if one has studied hundreds of scriptures and one feels one has a very clear understanding, Bhagavan says no. Misunderstandings and doubts have not really been cleared unless one has the experience of the self. Shastram shraddhavato hanyat samshayam cha viparyayam shraddhaya kinchidunatve punarabhyutayasayo. He says, Shastram Shraddhavato Hanyat Samshayam Cha Viparyayam. Misunderstanding and doubts are cleared by Shastras for one who has faith. If we have faith in Bhagavan's words, oh yes, what Bhagavan is saying is right. The person from whom we have heard the truth, the Guru from whom we have heard the truth, if we have faith in that person or in those words, then we don't seem to have any doubt or misunderstanding. But Shraddhaya kinchidunatve, even if the faith falters little bit, even if the faith comes down a little bit, punarabhyudayastayo. It again comes up. It again rises. What does it rise? How does it rise? In us, how does the doubt rise? Do we have 100% faith? If we have 100% faith, the moment Bhagavan tells us, you are the self, you are not the body, then in that moment, we should stop being the body. We should stop having identification with the body. There was a devotee who went to Bhagavan. He just went to ask whether he should stay a little longer in Tiruvannamalai or I can leave. Should I go or should I stay? He asked. Bhagavan said, Iru. He used one word, Iru. Stay. Now what happened to that devotee who was so right? He just went and sat down on the veranda of a house And that's all. He stayed. He never moved from that physical spot also. He never moved from Arunachala. He did not move away to another house or anywhere. He just sat there. He went and sat here. And he became indeed completely established in the self from that moment. And he came to be known as Thinnai Swami because he sat on that Thinnai. But for us, we cannot claim that we have that kind of faith in Bhagavan's words. So Bhagavan says, doubts come up. Doubts or misunderstandings. Misunderstanding. What is a misunderstanding? The misunderstanding is the thought that I am this identity. It keeps cropping up again and again. Again and again, even when we go back through self-inquiry, again the misunderstanding arises that I am this body, I am this mind, I have these experiences. What am I supposed to do with all this? How am I to get back? Even those questions come up. So Bhagavan says that unless one has the absolute steady experience of the self, one cannot call it nididhyasana. Mulachedastu vasishta swarupanubhavetayoho swarupe samstitistasmad nididhyasana muchyate. Real practice, real nididhyasana is abiding in the self, says Bhagavan. So the more one actually gets back to the self and abides in the self, one is doing nididhyasana. Until that point, when one abides in that self, then as one comes out, the aham spurana may manifest during one's work. So the shravana will be happening at that time. But Mananam, Bhagavan says, is the self-inquiry which takes us to the nididhyasana. So this is almost the entire chapter. We can conclude with the remaining 2 concluding verses of the chapter whenever Bhagavan gives us the opportunity to continue the meditation on the Ramanacentre. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri.
Namo Ramana. Thank you, Akka.
Namo Ramana. Thank you.
Apara Satchit Sukhabaridashe Yasyormimatram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chinta Vihinam Hridi Chintayami Chinta Vihinam Hridi Chintayami. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana.